Welcome to HR Voices, real talk with people leaders who are in it every day. We get into the messy stuff, the challenges that keep them up at night, and how they're actually fixing them. No corporate fluff, just smart conversations for people who care about people. HR Voices is brought to you by All Voices, the platform that cuts hours of manual HR work with step-by-step workflows and AI to assist with investigations, performance improvement, accommodations, leave requests, and more, so you can get back to the human side of HR. Welcome to HR Voices. I'm your host, Emily Finnick, and today we are chatting with Kelley Morse from Bullhorn. Kelley, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. I'm glad to join you today.
Yeah. So, Kelley, you're the Chief People Officer at Bullhorn, and Bullhorn is a platform used by more than 10,000 companies to help them manage their entire recruitment lifecycle.
Yes.
Before we jump in, for those who aren't yet familiar with Bullhorn, I'd love it if you could give us just a little bit more context on the company, the people that work there, and your role as Chief People Officer.
Yeah. So Bullhorn has been in business for just over 25 years. We are the market leader in our space. Our clients are primarily the staffing and recruitment industry. So it's an industry that's, not far from my heart in terms of being on the people side of the business. And our platform services our customers, basically helps them run their operations from start to finish. And we'll probably talk about AI at some point. But we're also leading the way on AI throughout the recruitment process with our new product called Amplify. So it's a really exciting time in the company right now. We have about 1,300 employees. It's funny, I just looked at this stat the other day, but our average tenure is 4.8 years.
Wow.
I know that one surprised me because I always tend to think we have a lower tenure. And then I saw 4.8 years. I was like, holy cow.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Kelley, while I was researching you, I did notice something about you. You have been at the company for about 6 years.
Yes.
In those 6 years, you have received 4 promotions. So you started at Senior Director, 1 year VP, 1 year SVP, 1 year Chief People Officer. That I couldn't help but notice a trajectory like that. And I wondered if you wouldn't mind speaking to it. Like, what is going on with you over there at Bullhorn, and how is this career progression story taking place?
Yeah. So just a little bit of context about how I got to Bullhorn is 7 years ago now at this point, maybe 6. I can't remember. I start to lose track, but I was pregnant with my 3rd child and I had spent a lot of time in startups, and startups can be, sort of crazy, working all the time. And I was head of HR at a startup, and I just thought, like, I can't keep this pace anymore. I need to find somewhere that's a little bit more structured, has a little bit more balance. And so I took a step back and took an individual contributor role at Bullhorn. It was a much bigger company than anything I'd worked in before. And it got off to a little bit of a rough start. We had some turnover at this Chief People Officer level, including the woman I had come to work for. And that was very scary for me at the time. And like I said, I was like 7 months pregnant. And the company found themselves without a Chief People Officer. And it was in the middle of COVID, like right at the beginning of it. And we were doing a layoff. So our CEO, Art, made a very smart call, and he put HR underneath someone who had been in the company for, like, I think at the time, like 12 years. And really good guy. His name's Pete. He's one of my mentors and someone I admire and love dearly. So they put HR underneath Pete. Pete had never run HR before, and he's British, and he's not someone that people would think of as running an HR function. But he had me and the rest of the team as sort of partners. And so we brought the HR expertise. Pete brought the Bullhorn sort of like knowledge and culture. I just got really lucky. Pete and I clicked really well, and he was able to like mentor and guide me. I ended up staying, obviously, spoiler alert there. But when I came back from my maternity leave, Pete promoted me. And so that was my VP promotion. And then again, I had run HR before. And so as the more I got to know the company's culture and understand it, the more things I was able to sort of bring and do and sort of have that impact. And so promotions followed, pretty quickly after that. And then I took the Chief People Officer job in 2023. Yeah. I've been in seat for about 2.5 years now.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. I love to hear that. We actually have opposite career stories. Mine started big and then went small
Okay.
in terms of company size, but for the same reasons, oddly. So we'll have to talk about that another time.
I love it. I love it.
As we think about, when you and I were chatting earlier, we were talking about can't believe it's the end of the year already. We're all thinking about next year already. I'm curious what's on your mind. What are some of the biggest challenges that, as a chief people officer at Bullhorn that you're facing specifically? And what are you thinking about for next year?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think one of the longer challenges we've had now for the last couple of years, and I think many, if not most, SaaS companies are feeling this, is just like this economic uncertainty and downturn. So we continue to weather that, and so there's a sort of an exhaustion on that. And so I think that's, I had mentioned I'm ready to turn the page on 2025, and I think just for those reasons, I'm sort of like, okay, but I'm really excited and sort of energized by some of the challenges that I think we're going to look at next year. And I know everyone's talking about AI right now, but I think for me and our company is we not only have AI that we're bringing to our own customers and could really shape the game of the recruitment industry and really change it, which I think is really exciting, but also on a talent level, we're going to be introducing AI and we've already started to see some early wins, but like that might change the talent landscape here at our company as well. And so as I think about those challenges, I'm very invigorated about, by them and like, what could it mean and how can we work through it and how do we upskill people and how do we not bite off too much? And so those are all sort of the things that I've been thinking a lot about over the last couple of months. And the exhaustion is the less exciting part. The thought about the future of talent is more exciting for me.
Yes, I saw the keynote that your CEO gave about Amplify, getting more familiar.
It's
I mean,
incredible.
it looks really cool.
Yeah. So, I think, again, I'm not an AI expert at all. So let me just say that. I've been doing, just a lot of research and watching and talking to a lot of people and thinking about our own workflows. I think one of the things for me and our company is that in order for AI to be successful, I think it needs to be built where you live already. It needs to just be built into the systems you're already working in and connect seamlessly. And so that is actually one of the awesome things about our Amplify is it's built into Bullhorn, where people already live and all the data is, and all that data helps feed the agents that help power it. And so it's interesting. I was talking to my talent acquisition team recently, and like we're currently not on Bullhorn because it's built for the staffing industry, but it's not built really for corporate as much. So we don't use it. But anyways, I want to use it very, very badly. And so I recently started talking about, okay, how can we make this happen? Like, how can we hook our systems up into it? Because I just think it's so powerful. But it's got to be built into where you live because in order to have to go out and bring your data over to another system, it's just not as seamless. You're not getting those efficiencies and those gains and all of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, in terms of AI use in your product, I think what's really cool is I also work at an organization with an AI native product, right? And so the fact that that's a constant conversation because of the nature of our product, right? It keeps me. I feel like it. And prior to this role, I was at another AI startup, so I just feel like it's sort of been a big piece of my mind share for 3 or 4 years, right? And so how I use AI, it's just always on my mind. Every process I start, how could it help me? How could it assist me, right? So when you think about, has that sort of bled into your people team, the people that you're leading in terms of your adoption of AI, not for recruitment, because as you mentioned, you're not even using Bullhorn yet, but in other processes, like have you been excited about the potential for AI sort of elsewhere within the people team?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for it. Again, figuring out how to bring in AI in so that it's not just like a feature piece or, a tiny little piece. But we did actually, my team got together a couple weeks ago and sat down and sort of did the entire employee life cycle and thought about what are some low hanging fruits in terms of putting AI in. Some of the easiest ones is self-service for employees. So we have an email account that our internal employees email when they have questions, and we get like over 15,000 emails a year. And so to take all of that and all of our information and roll it out so that employees can sort of use a chatbot to get, those sort of tier one or lower level questions answered quicker. I think that's going to be like one of the things we start with. There's a lot of opportunity in recruitment. As we sort of talked about, I think there's a lot of opportunity in engagement, thinking about like um, surveys and sort of summarizing information, which a lot of tools already have that built in. But then how do you create sort of something agentic that can go out and pulse sort of quickly and behind the scenes and bring that information and those insights back to HR business partners and leaders? I think there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of opportunity in learning and development. But some of them are so like new and early stage that they're not quite there yet. So we'll continue to sort of play around with things and see what takes off probably over the next like 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, that's wonderful. There's a lot of great tools out there for some of those self-service. I know one of our favorites is Kinfolk. They're a great
Yes.
team. Have you heard
Yes.
of them?
I have definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so check them
I
out.
mean,
Listeners too.
it's the interesting piece. Like we have some incredibly talented people on our own team who are leading the way, in this space. And so some of it we're like, what can we leverage internally? What do we want to buy elsewhere? So that's kind of like where we're at. As you think about, especially on the recruitment side, like our teams have spent the time to like do some incredible things. Like, can we just sort of bring that over rather than go outside and pull a bunch of other vendors?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shifting gears to next year and thinking about the employees, right? We've talked
Hmm.
about your people team and how they're going to leverage it. One thing that I think is really exciting for people leaders in this moment is that I just think it's such a huge opportunity for people teams to shape the use of this technology and sort of how it shapes their culture, how it shapes workforce planning. I mean, it impacts the use of AI does impact so much of the life cycle and so much of the business, right? That I think it's such an opportunity to lead. I think people partnered with tech, just seeing them sort of rise to the occasion. And so I'm just curious when you think about your people teams and their use of AI and their use of technology, have you seen that shift and has it changed how you partner internally? What's your role in that shift? Like, what's that been like?
Yeah, I think, it's early. I think, one of the things I've been encouraging my team is there's all different there's a span of interest and usage of it. I have my head of talent development is like obsessed with it and like is using it all the time. And then there's me who's like probably had a busier year and hasn't been able to spend as much time there as much as I probably have wanted to. But so we're kind of in a span. One of the things that we're really sort of focusing on as we go into 2026 is letting each function figure out what works for them and like letting people test it out and try it out. And I think it's something that you lead from the top down and it feels forced. But it's this like ground up momentum, which we're trying to build. And so, there's a lot of individuals within our company that are just like so curious and exploring it and trying it out and want to share it. And so that's been like very cool to see. I could probably name like 10 or 15 people that just like are so into it and are constantly like sending, little quick tips and things like that. Like, oh, and I tried this. And so it's fun to see that. So I'd say we're probably on the earlier side of it. And, our goal in the next year is to see like where are the gains? Where do we want to make some investments? Because I think you could throw a lot of money at AI right now and you have to be ready for it. You have to be ready to absorb it as an organization. And I don't think all of it's going to stick. So we just take a little bit more of a um, try it, let's prove the value, and we'll sort of add it and introduce it as it makes a good investment on the money you need to spend.
Yeah, that's sound advice. You could. And I know that you could also waste a lot of time sort of trying to build it yourself too. I feel like there's this like this push and pull of don't spend too many hours building what can be bought, but also don't
Yes.
spend too many dollars buying for processes that you haven't quite figured out yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Well, it's interesting you bring up the process thing because to truly embrace it, you need to transform your workflows and how you do things. It's not just put a technology on top of everything that's already existing. It's changing the way that, we've seen with our clients, the way that their teams fundamentally operate and measure their employees and things like that. So it's not just like, let's adopt it and it's all going to be perfect on top of what we already have. It's like, no, this is transformative work. And I think there's going to be a lot more talk about that in the next year.
I do too. I think if you stick it on top of a garbage process, you're just going to scale a garbage process and automate a
Yes.
garbage process. So a lot of the a lot of the work in implementing it and finding your use case is identifying a problem, having the humans shape what the ideal outcome should be for employees, right? And then
Right.
automating that. But you do kind
Yes.
of have to start from scratch a little bit, right?
Yeah, or just not
Otherwise,
be yeah, or just not be stuck on like what we've always done.
right.
I think that's the biggest thing is like, yes, those were the workflows for how many years, forever and ever, right? We, made efficiency or tweaked them here and there, but like this is something that it's kind of like you wipe it clean a little bit and reimagine each phase as it goes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you can, I'll give you a couple of examples from other folks I've been talking to. But if you mentioned surveys, right? Like, there's a world where you don't even have to have surveys.
Yes.
You have mountains of unstructured data that contain all of the authentic employee sentiment you're going to need, right? Slack channels, emails, meeting notes. Like, you can sort of use AI to sort of surface problem
Yes.
areas without having to ask and have, like, performative data sets, right? Of
Yeah.
or performance management, another good area where, like, we meet twice a year, we have a meeting. It's based on, like, the last 6 weeks of what we can remember, and that's it, and everybody hates it. Like,
Yes.
you could totally
Yes.
reimagine a process like that if you started defining it with AI at the
There's a ton of opportunities for disruption in those things. We were just talking about that when my team got together, but like performance management is such a great example because think about think about you go to sit to write this review and it's like it's just recency bias unless you've kept notes or receipts or made things along the way and both the employee and the manager's trying to do that to go back and like recreate and say how did I do and but if you had something that just pulled all that stuff sort of through and threaded it and then kind of summarized it, right? Now you're actually having a real conversation because you don't want AI to have the review with your employee. But like to get all that data ready and organized and summarize it so that you can actually have the real human connection and
Mhm.
like a real conversation, I think is a very huge opportunity and could be really powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing but opportunity, and personally, I get excited about this stuff. I love
I get
I love
excited.
reading.
I also get overwhelmed because like even now in talking about it, this conversation, I will sound aged in 3 months, right? Like it's just moving that quickly. And I consider myself like AI knowledgeable light, enough to be like somewhat dangerous and informed. But it's moving so quickly too. So uh, it's some of it's like very exciting, some of it's a little overwhelming. And
Well,
we'll
I mean,
see where we end up in the
I
year.
appreciate your honesty because also as someone who's leading people at an organization that is pushing an AI product, I feel like it'd be easy for you to try to fake it till you make it. And that does not seem to be your style. And so I really appreciate the authenticity here.
The teams that are working on our products are just like out of this world, so smart. The things that they come up with and they innovate on and they build, like I'm actually really proud to be a part of it and acknowledge my place in the back of the line as like all not all that knowledgeable, but I can understand it.
Right. Right. Well, I asked another in a recent episode with Kate Kemp, who's chief people officer at Restaurant 365. And I said, do you have any advice for, HR leaders that might feel behind? She's like, unless you have sold your own AI company, like, we're all behind. What are you talking
We're
about?
all
Like,
behind.
we're
That's
figuring it
exactly
out.
right.
Join us, join the party as we all figure this out. No one has this figured out.
No, no. And don't be afraid of it. Like you
Yeah.
got to lean in and embrace it.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
Kelley, I've really enjoyed our conversation. Do you have any sort of parting words of advice for, you've had a great career, very impressive trajectory at your company. Any advice you want to leave for the HR listeners today?
Yeah, I think it goes along the same vein that we just sort of discussed right now is like, don't be afraid. Don't have imposter syndrome. Like everyone else is probably at the same level that you're at. And you're just probably looking up to people more than anything. But like, we're all human. We're all trying to figure it out. And so the more you can just lean in and not be afraid of the challenge or to learn, to fail. I mean, I've certainly done a ton of that in my career. I think that's how I got to where I'm at is just a little bit. I definitely have fear, but pretending to be fearless, like we got this, we'll figure it out. Like, what's the worst that can happen, right? So I think there's a little bit of that. That's like really solid career advice. That's just like, don't be so nervous and anxious about things. Like, just trust in yourself and things will work out.
Yeah. Don't don't we get in our own way.
Don't get in
Um,
our own way. Love that.
all right. Well, thank you so much, Kelley. It was a joy to talk to you today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Emily.
Take care.
Take care.